What's going on? It's Connor from the Dolphins Dive. In today's preview day, we're breaking down the very exciting matchup of the Dolphins versus the 49ers this Sunday at 4 o'clock. So without further ado, you know how we do. We're going to hop right into it. Dolphins offense versus 49ers defense. So this is where this is the biggest matchup of the game. This is one of the better, arguably one of the best offenses in the league against the best defense in the league. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. But I'm going to go through the numbers. The Dolphins' offense is 6th in points per game. They've continually took a steady climb all the way to the 6th rank. The 49ers' defense, though, is 1st in points per game. So they led up to the least amount of points in the entire league, which is very, very impressive. Dolphins are 2nd in passing yards per game. The 49ers are 11th in passing yards allowed. So once again, one of the better passing defenses in the league. Dolphins' offense is 28th in rushing yards per game. The 49ers' offense is 1st in rushing yards allowed. So best in points allowed, best in rushing yards allowed. So obviously this is a very, very, very good defense. And then just a side note before I get into the offensive keys, the 49ers run man 20%, 7th lowest rate in the league. So what to expect from the Niners is going to be a lot of an even front, which means 4 down linemen. They send pressure, but they mainly rely on their front 4, a lot of stunting games and just letting Nick Bosa cook. And then just dropping zone coverage in the back end, whether it be quarters or cover 3. They mix up their coverages, but they're primarily a zone defense. They send 4, let their guys get after the quarterback. So offensive keys, protect Tua at all costs is the first one. And this is just more the way of just protection on the quarterback. With the Armstead probably out, Austin Jackson actually, I don't know if Armstead's going to be out, but he might be. Austin Jackson probably out as well. We're going to have backup tackles. I feel comfortable with Brandon Shell at right tackle because, honestly, he was performing probably better than Austin Jackson at right tackle. The left tackle is where I get large concern from. I don't know who they intend to start there. Probably Greg Little. And when you're talking about facing one of arguably the best pass rusher in the entire league in Nick Bosa, it could be very problematic. Now, the good thing is the Dolphins, or Tua rather, we get the ball out very quick. Just look at when we played the Steelers after he came back from his concussion. The ball was out. He didn't get sacked. The ball was out in under like 2.5 seconds every single time. So it's going to be a balancing act. If you do want to take a deep shot, you're going to have to max protect, keep everyone in. Like I said, the tackles being beat up and facing this defense, you can't afford to hold on to the ball too long, have long developing plays, or just get beat immediately off the line at the tackle position. So, and in terms of play calling too, that can have a big effect. And they even addressed it in the post game on when Tua was taking multiple sacks, why that was happening. Number 2, protect the motherfucking rock is what I wrote down. But protect the football. Don't turn the ball over between picks and fumbles. The 49ers are too good of a team to give extra possessions to. If you give them extra possessions, it's a death sentence. They're a good enough team as is. If you give them extra possessions, you're going to lose. So limit the turnovers, limit the fumbles. And this isn't an issue the Dolphins have had. But when you're facing the number 1 defense, it's going to be something that you face. And I'm not saying Tua's not going to turn the ball over. But if there is an interception, limit it to 1. Don't continue to make that mistake. I don't think it's going to be the biggest deal in the world if a pick is thrown, but it's just making sure that it's not 2, 3 picks, there's a fumble, things like that. Those are going to be the deciding factors, like a punt return, a punt block. I don't know. It could go either way for the Niners or the Dolphins, but when you have 2 high-level teams matching up, every single play matters extremely high. And then third, this is kind of goes against the numbers, but try to establish the run. If you're a 49ers fan watching, you know how we're kind of running the same offense. You know how this offense goes through the running game. The Dolphins have been a pass-heavy team, but they still look to establish the run, although not being able to necessarily do so. But it's the lifeline of this offense. It causes the linebackers to have to bite. And if you're able to establish the run, it makes protecting the quarterback and keeping the pass rushers back a lot easier. And the only reason I think there's a chance they can establish the run is that the Dolphins' offense is very pass-heavy. We have Tyreek Hill. We have Jalen Waddle. That's going to be the point of emphasis for the 49ers preparing for the Dolphins. Is how are we going to stop these guys? So if it's in the linebackers' minds that we got to get to our depth and make sure that we don't bite, it could leave creases and running lanes that you have to take advantage of. So that's the only. If you look at it on paper, the Niners being the first rushing yards allowed and the Dolphins are 28th, there's no chance we're gonna be able to establish the run. But we have to attempt to at least keep the linebackers closer to the line of scrimmage. Players to watch for the 49ers. This is the longest list I've had to make all year from opponents' players. It's a lot. First to mention Nick Bosa, we all know him. Arguably the best pass rusher in the entire league. Elite run defender, elite pass rusher out of Ohio State, my favorite college. The dude's an absolute beast. He's going to take a game over if you let him. So like I said, you get the ball out quick, double team him, do whatever you got to do. Number two, or I'm just going to go through the line. This is kind of a combo because they're kind of rotational guys, but Samson Ebukam and Charles Omenihu, these are also rotational pass rushers for the Niners, but they make big plays when it comes down to it. So those are guys to just look out for. Next guy I have is Fred Warner, arguably the best linebacker in all football. The dude is ridiculous against the run, against the pass. He's just, there's not many linebackers, a position that's starting to get faded out with the league becoming pass heavy. But Fred Warner is just transcending his position. He's just takes games over. He makes big plays. He can cover seam down 40 yards on a fast-ass player. Like he's an all-around beast. They do everything with him. He's amazing. He can blitz, all of that. Dre Greenlaw, another, and like I said, the 49ers are a 4-3 base defense, and once again, that's not as common as probably as it was, and I think it's due to kind of linebacker play, but the 49ers get very, very good linebacker play out of Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw. They have the other guy, I think he was from the Colts. So they have phenomenal linebackers, and that's why they're able to play the way they do. So Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw are both guys to look out for. This next guy, I legitimately thought when I had like a Sunday night football game on, and I just assumed he was a linebacker after like studying the tape and doing some research. He's a safety, and I'm going to mess this up. I apologize. Talona Hafunga. He's their strong safety, but I just saw him in the box the entire time making plays against a run or down at the line of scrimmage. I was like, oh, that's a linebacker. And he kind of looks like a linebacker just based off how he's built. But no, he's a safety. He's a strong safety. He makes plays all over the field. And I think, again, he's one of the reasons why they're able to play the way they do, because he's physical and can be that extra run defender if they're in a nickel package. Next guy, Travarius Ward, former Chief, got paid a lot of money. He's very, very good. And then Jimmy Ward. I've realized I'm being long in the tooth because I also want to go over this point of how I was mentioning the Niners running a 4-3. That's, I think, the chess match that's going to be played is because the Dolphins are going to come out in 21 personnel, which is 2 backs, 1 tight end. And generally, how teams face that is running a heavier personnel as well and like a 4-3 defense. But say the Niners are like, well, we know what they want to do with Waddle and Tyreek because this is what we've kind of been doing. And they don't want to run a 4-3 to stop the heavy personnel. Instead of staying nickel, the Dolphins have to look advantage to take advantage of that lighter box in a nickel defense by trying to run the ball out of 21 against nickel. That's what, again, the offensive and defensive battle is going to come down to. How does the Dolphins 21 personnel face up against the 49ers nickel? If the 49ers in base 4-3 against 21, then the Dolphins should be able to pass. So that's that chess match. Next, we obviously have the 49ers offense versus the Dolphins defense. And once again, we all know how the 49ers operate because we run a similar offense. 49ers offense is 15th in points per game. Dolphins defense is 19th. 49ers are 10th in passing yards per game. Dolphins are 22nd in passing yards allowed. 49ers are 11th in rushing yards per game. Dolphins are 9th in rushing yards allowed. So the numbers, in terms of the numbers, the Dolphins have the edge on rushing. The Niners have the edge on passing, and the Niners have the edge on points. So once again, we know the 49ers have a great offense, a great system, as McDaniel brought over. First defensive key contains CMC. And it's just because the player himself, he's so explosive, running, passing, or in the passing game, but he's also threw a touchdown in his 49ers debut. So we all know CMC. He's a menace. You got to do everything to try and contain him. And I say that as if they don't have another basically CMC and Deebo Samuel who they'll send on misdirections and run the ball with, and he'll make big explosive plays as well. So it should really be contain explosives and contain CMC and Debo. So that's that. Next one, stop the run. And I know I said contain CMC, but stopping the run in general, if you try and make them, or if you force them to make them one-dimensional and make their run game useless and make them throw the ball, it helps. It's kind of been a point I've made all season. And if you even think back to the 2020 matchup when we faced them, that's what the Dolphins defense was able to do against them. Obviously, two different teams and same systems, kind of, honestly, but we were able to stop the run, get them to third and long, pressure them, and force errors. And that's what they have to do. Stop the run, get them to second and long, third and long, pressure Jimmy G, try and get mistakes, picks, strip sacks. You guys know how the Dolphins defense operates, although it's been different this year. A lot less sending blitzes and a lot more just base pass rush stunts in games. So those are the defensive keys. Contain CMC and Debo. Stop the run, pressure Jimmy G. But in order to pressure him, you have to get him to second and third and long. Players to watch on the 49ers offense. Once again, the longest list I've had to make all season. Trent Williams, the best left tackle of this past decade. Arguably, obviously, there's a lot of good guys, but Trent Williams is phenomenal. He's a difference maker in the run game. George Kittle, arguably the best tight end in football. You want to compare, like, Kittle and Kelsey get compared, but what Kittle does in the run game is way more valuable than most tight ends in the entire league. He's tremendous in the run game. He's a phenomenal pass catcher, and especially after the catch too. That's tough to bring down. CMC, I've already mentioned him. Kyle Juszczyk, I think he's one of the most valuable guys for this entire offense. He's just a chess piece. They move around, similar to how do we use Alec Ingold, how he's a matchup nightmare. They'll line him out wide, they'll motion him. He's a phenomenal blocker. Debo Samuel, we all know what he brings to the table. Very tough to bring down, explosive guy. They'll run the ball with him. They'll throw a quick game, screens, whatnot. And then Brandon Ayuk as well. He's steadily grown. He's really turned into a phenomenal player. Makes tough contested catches. Take the top off the defense from time to time. He's a phenomenal player. So this is going to be a very fun game to watch. And as for the prediction goes, I went back and forth in this. And I was like, I try not to be biased. I try and think this through. And, like, I've had the Dolphins win a lot. The Dolphins have won a lot of games in a row. Maybe they get cooled down. And I talked to my friend about it, who's a big Shanahan fan, so he kind of follows everything about him. I was like, so does Shanahan usually beat his predecessors, meaning like McVay, Saleh, LaFleur, people that came from his tree? And he's like, yeah, he usually, because he messes up the Rams. He always beats the Packers for the most part. So that was like, okay, I'm going to pick Niners. And then as I was going to write my prediction down on my screen, I was like, I don't know, it just doesn't feel right. So I'm having the Dolphins win 31-24. I think it's going to be a close game down to the wire, maybe a game-winning drive type of situation. I have them winning 31-24, but like I said, this game can go either way. Both teams are very, very good, and I'm sure we'll see them in the playoffs, not necessarily facing each other because that'd be Super Bowl, but making runs into the playoffs. As for my predictions go, the Dolphins are 8-3 on the season. I'm 9-2 on my predictions, so I'm hoping to go to 10-2. I appreciate anybody for watching. It means a lot to me. If you're interested in Dolphins merch, check out thedolphinsdive.com. Comment your score prediction down below, and until next time, I'll catch y'all.